Getting around the Lion City. Despite being only about 50 kilometers east to west, Singapore is a transport powerhouse. Changi Airport is consistently voted the world's best, complete with a butterfly garden, art installations, and the Jewel Complex, home to the world's tallest indoor waterfall, the 40-meter rain vortex. Few realize that Singapore has a second public airport, Sealtar, a quieter hub for regional flights and private aviation. Its MRT, Mass Rapid Transit, is Southeast Asia's most advanced metro system, with lines burrowing deep beneath the island. It has the world's longest driverless network and some of the deepest underground stations. Owning a car, however, is a luxury. Not only are vehicles taxed heavily, but every buyer must also purchase a Certificate of Entitlement, COE, a permit that can cost tens of thousands of dollars and only lasts for 10 years. This system keeps traffic manageable and nudges citizens toward public transport. Two bridges link Singapore with Malaysia, the historic Johor Causeway and the newer Second Link Bridge. On weekends, thousands of Singaporeans cross into Johor Bahru to shop, since groceries, fuel, and even a simple meal cost a fraction of Singaporean prices. Landmarks that define the skyline. Singapore's architecture blends imagination with ambition. Marina Bay Sands, the iconic ship on three towers, is more than a hotel, it's a symbol of how far Singapore has come. On top, an infinity pool lets swimmers float above the skyline. Gardens by the Bay features super trees, giant vertical gardens that light up at night in spectacular shows. Inside, the Cloud Forest Dome recreates a tropical mountain ecosystem complete with a 35-meter indoor waterfall. Sentosa Island is the playground of Singapore, filled with beaches, resorts, a giant Merlion statue, and Universal Studios. Orchard Road rivals New York's Fifth Avenue and Tokyo's Shibuya as one of the world's shopping meccas. Historic districts like Chinatown, Little India, and Kampong Glam preserve the cultural heritage of the country's three major ethnic groups. Even cemeteries, such as the historic Bukit Brown, tell stories of migration, colonial history, and the blending of cultures. Nature in the city. Despite being one of the most densely populated places on Earth, Singapore is sometimes called a city in a garden. Nearly half the island is covered by greenery, thanks to careful urban planning. Bukit Timah Nature Reserve preserves the last patch of primary rainforest, home to rare animals and over 800 species of flowering plants. The Sunjai Buloh Wetland Reserve is a sanctuary for migratory birds traveling between Siberia and Australia. Reservoirs like Macritchie and Sealtar double as recreational parks where locals jog, kayak, or spot monitor lizards. Singapore is also experimenting with vertical farming and rooftop agriculture. With limited land, it imports about 90% of its food, but new technology is helping reduce that dependency. Wildlife is surprisingly present. Otters now swim through city canals, macaques roam forest edges, and the elusive Sunda pangolin hides in protected zones. People of many roots. With just under 6 million residents, Singapore is a melting pot. Roughly 75% are ethnically Chinese, 13% Malay, and 10% Indian, with the rest being Eurasians and expatriates from all over the globe. For official languages, English, Malay, Mandarin, and Tamil reflect this mix. Malay is considered the national language, English is the working language, and Mandarin and Tamil preserve the cultures of their communities. Then there's Singlish, a quirky local Creole that fuses English with Hokkien, Cantonese, Malay, and Tamil words. Expressions like la, lore, or co, crazy, right, are part of everyday conversation. To prevent ethnic segregation, the government applies a unique ethnic quota system in public housing blocks, HDB flats. This ensures that every neighborhood reflects Singapore's diversity, even if it means certain apartments are harder or easier to buy depending on the buyer's race. Food, the national obsession. If Singapore had a religion, it would be food. People here don't ask, "How are you?" but, "Have you eaten?" The country's culinary identity comes alive in hawker centers, giant open-air food courts where hundreds of stalls sell everything from Malay sauté skewers to Indian roti prata, from Chinese chicken rice to Peranakan laksa. These meals are cheap, flavorful, and in some cases world famous. One hawker stall even earned a Michelin star for its soy sauce chicken. Some iconic dishes include Hainanese chicken rice, considered the national dish. Chili crab, sweet, spicy, messy, and utterly delicious. Char kwai teo, smoky fried noodles. Kaya toast with kopi, breakfast of coconut jam on toast with strong coffee. Despite the global fame of the Singapore Sling cocktail, few locals actually drink it, it's mostly for tourists. Strict but safe. Singapore's reputation as a fine city comes from its strict laws. Fines for littering, eating on the MRT, or selling chewing gum are real. Caning remains a legal punishment, and drug trafficking carries the death penalty. Critics see this as heavy-handed, but many Singaporeans believe this discipline is why their streets are safe, their city clean, and their economy stable. Social quirks are part of life, too. People love to queue, a long line is assumed to mean something good, and choke seats in food courts by leaving small items like tissue packets. Arts, sports, and culture. While business dominates daily life, Singapore also nurtures creativity. The Esplanade, theaters on the bay, nicknamed the Durian for its spiky shape, hosts concerts, plays, and art shows. Local music ranges from Chinese opera to Malay gamelan to Indian classical dance. Modern pop bands and metal groups are also gaining traction, thanks to Singapore's role as a stop for global tours. In sports, Singapore shines in swimming. The nation erupted with pride in 2016 when Joseph Schooling beat his idol Michael Phelps in the Olympics, winning the country's first gold medal. Traditional Southeast Asian sports like sepak takraw and silat are also practiced, though not on the same global stage. A country born by accident. Here's one of the most unique parts of Singapore's story: it didn't fight for independence, it was expelled. After joining Malaysia in 1963, tensions over politics, economics, and ethnic policies escalated. By 1965, Malaysia's parliament voted to remove Singapore from the federation. Singapore's founding Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, wept on television as he announced independence, fearing the island would not survive. But Singapore defied expectations. Within decades, it became one of the richest, most competitive economies on Earth. The government's strict but efficient policies turned a resource-poor island into a global hub of finance, shipping, and technology. Diplomacy without enemies. Today, Singapore is one of the few countries with no serious disputes. It is a member of ASEAN and the Commonwealth, maintains deep ties with the US, UK, China, India, and Japan, and works closely with its neighbors Malaysia and Indonesia despite old rivalries. It hosts global summits, from historic US-North Korea meetings to financial conferences. Its military, though small, is advanced and even trains abroad in places like the US and Australia due to limited local space. The secret of Singapore. What makes Singapore so extraordinary is balance. Every square meter of land is carefully planned. Every community reflects diversity. Every policy tries to balance freedom with order, growth with sustainability. It is not a perfect country, some argue it sacrifices certain freedoms for stability, but it is a living experiment that shows what determination, planning, and discipline can achieve. From jungle to metropolis in just a few generations, Singapore is proof that size doesn't limit ambition. On this little island, the future was not just imagined, it was built. Sparkles, and that is Singapore, the city-state that was never supposed to exist, yet became one of the world's greatest success stories. Singapore, the island that became a global giant. If you were to glance at a world map, Singapore might look like nothing more than a dot. Yet that tiny dot has grown into one of the most remarkable places on Earth, a city-state that reinvented itself in less than a lifetime, turning swamps and fishing villages into glittering skyscrapers, lush vertical gardens, and one of the busiest ports in human history. It's a country of paradoxes, strict yet innovative, small yet powerful, deeply traditional yet boldly futuristic. To understand Singapore, you have to see how every detail, its geography, people, food, and even its rules, interlock like the gears of a perfectly engineered machine. A nation of islands, some natural, some made by hand. Singapore lies at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula, straddling one of the most important shipping lanes in the world, the Strait of Malacca. The country consists of the main Singapore Island, about 95% of the territory, and 63 smaller islands. But here's the fascinating part: Singapore doesn't just have islands, it makes them. Since independence in 1965, it has expanded its landmass by over 22% through land reclamation. Entire neighborhoods, industrial zones, and even natural-looking parks are built on what was once the sea. Jurong Island, for example, used to be 7 separate islands but was merged into one giant hub for the petrochemical industry. Right now, new land is still being created, especially at Tuas, where the coastline is slowly being pushed into the sea to house a next-generation megaport expected to be completed by 2040. By then, Singapore's port will be the largest fully automated container terminal in the world.